You're such a drama queen, Sarah. Can't you just be happy for your sister for once? The words hit me like a physical blow as I stood in the doorway of what used to be my childhood kitchen, now gutted and gleaming with new appliances I'd paid for. My twin sister Emma was lounging against the marble countertop, the one that had cost me 3 months of overtime, while our mother defended her with the same fierce protectiveness she'd shown Emma our entire lives. I could see it all now with crystalline clarity. Emma's perfectly manicured nails drumming against the stone surface, her designer divorce attorney's business card casually placed next to the coffee maker, and most damning of all, the real estate appraisal document spread across the breakfast bar like evidence of a crime I was too stupid to see coming. The morning light streaming through the new windows I'd selected and paid for, cast everything in sharp relief, including the truth I'd been blind to for months. In that moment, watching my mother's face flush with righteous indignation while Emma smirked behind her coffee cup, I felt something fundamental shift inside me. The floorboards beneath our feet, the foundation I'd insisted on reinforcing, the very walls I'd helped rebuild, everything I'd sacrificed to preserve was about to slip through my fingers like sand. They just didn't know that the structural engineer who'd made their dreams possible was about to bring the whole thing crashing down. I'd driven over that Saturday morning to check on the final electrical inspection, the last step before the renovation I'd funded could be officially complete. For 8 months, I'd poured $89,000 of my savings into transforming this 1960s ranch house into something worthy of a home design magazine. Every weekend, every vacation day, every spare moment had been spent coordinating contractors, selecting finishes, and solving the endless problems that came with updating a 50-year-old house. The renovation had started innocently enough. Emma's messy divorce from her cheating husband Marcus had left her financially devastated and emotionally shattered. She'd moved back in with our parents while her lawyer fought for her share of the assets, and Mom had called me crying about how cramped and outdated the house felt, with 3 adults living under one roof. "If only we could make it more comfortable for Emma while she gets back on her feet," she'd said. "You understand these things, Sarah. You know what needs to be done." Of course I understood. I was the responsible twin, the one with the engineering degree and the steady paycheck and the practical approach to life's problems. Emma was the artistic one, the free spirit who'd married her college sweetheart and spent 10 years playing house while I built my career from the ground up. When Marcus destroyed their marriage with his secretary, it was only natural that the family would rally around Emma. And it was only natural that I would be the one to foot the bill. The scope had grown gradually, the way these projects always do. First, it was just updating the master bathroom so Emma could have privacy. Then the kitchen needed work because the old appliances were depressing Emma's mood. The living room required new flooring because the carpet reminded Emma of the house she'd lost. Each addition seemed reasonable in isolation, each expense justified by Emma's fragile emotional state and my parents' fixed income. I told myself it was an investment in family harmony, a way to give Emma the stability she needed to rebuild her life. I'd ignored the little voice that whispered about favoritism and patterns that went back to our childhood. I'd pushed down the memories of Emma getting the bigger bedroom, the newer car, the college fund that somehow never materialized for me. Because Sarah's so capable, she'll find a way to pay for school herself. But standing in that kitchen, staring at those real estate documents with Emma's name typed neatly in the buyer field, all those buried resentments came flooding back with the force of a dam breaking. The purchase price listed was $50, euros and dollars, roughly half the market value of the house and exactly what my parents still owed on their mortgage. Emma wasn't just getting a free house. She was getting a house I'd renovated at a massive discount, using money I'd earned through 12-hour days and weekend work sessions. "What exactly is this?" I asked, picking up the contract with hands that only trembled slightly. Mom's face went pale, but Emma's chin lifted defiantly. "It's a fresh start," she said. "Something I desperately need after everything Marcus put me through. A fresh start that I paid for." "You offered to help with the renovation," Emma shot back. "Nobody forced you to spend your money." The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. "I offered to help Mom and Dad make their house more comfortable. I didn't offer to buy you a house." "It's not like that," Mom interjected quickly. "Emma's buying the house fair and square. She's taking over the mortgage payments." "What mortgage payments? The house will be paid off with my renovation costs." Silence stretched between us like a chasm. Finally, Dad emerged from his study, drawn by the raised voices. He took one look at the documents in my hand, and his shoulders sagged in defeat. Sarah, honey, let us explain. Explain what? How you've been planning to sell Emma a house for half its value after I spent nearly $100,000 improving it. Explain how you've been lying to me for 8 months while I worked myself into the ground to help this family. Dad sat down heavily at the kitchen table, the antique farmhouse table I'd restored by hand during my vacation days. Emma needs stability more than you do right now. You've got your career, your condo, your savings. My savings? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Dad, I just spent my savings on this house, the house you're giving to Emma for pennies on the dollar. We're not giving it to her, Mom said defensively. She's buying it. She'll be responsible for all the expenses going forward. After I've already handled the major renovations and improvements. How convenient. Emma slammed her coffee cup down on the counter with enough force to make me wince. I can't believe how selfish you're being right now. I'm going through the worst time of my life, and all you can think about is money. This isn't about money, Emma. This is about honesty. This is about being treated like an equal member of this family instead of a walking ATM. Nobody treats you like an ATM, she snapped. You're successful and independent. You don't need help the way I do. You've always been the strong one. There it was, the narrative that had defined our relationship since birth. Emma was fragile, artistic, in need of protection and support. Sarah was capable, responsible, able to handle anything life threw at her. Emma got help. Sarah gave help. Emma received. Sarah provided. The natural order of things, as immutable as gravity. Did it ever occur to any of you to ask what I need? I said quietly. Did anyone think to include me in discussions about the house I've been paying to renovate? Did anyone consider that maybe I have dreams and plans that don't involve subsidizing Emma's fresh start? Of course we value your input, Dad said, but Emma's situation is urgent. She needs somewhere stable to live while she figures out her next steps. She can live here with you. That was the original plan. 3 adults in a 2-bedroom house isn't sustainable long-term, Mom said. This way, Emma gets her independence back, and your father and I can start thinking about downsizing. I stared at her, processing the implications. So Emma gets the house I renovated, and you get to downsize with the equity I built. What exactly do I get out of this arrangement? You get the satisfaction of helping your family, Emma said. Some people find that rewarding. And some people find getting a free house rewarding. It's not free. Emma's voice rose to a near shriek. I'm taking on a mortgage. I'm going to be responsible for property taxes and maintenance and everything else. A mortgage that's already been mostly paid down by my renovation budget. Property taxes on a house whose value I increased by 60%. Maintenance on systems I just replaced. I set the contract down carefully on the counter. You're right, Emma. It's not free. It's just subsidized by your sister's life savings. The kitchen fell silent except for the hum of the new refrigerator and the ticking of the antique clock I'd had professionally restored. I looked around at the space I'd lovingly transformed, the custom cabinets, the subway tile backsplash, the hardwood floors I'd personally refinished, and felt a cold clarity settle over me like fog. I need some air, I said. I walked out through the sliding glass door onto the deck I'd designed and built, overlooking the garden I'd landscaped. My phone was already in my hand, scrolling through contacts until I found the number I needed. Morrison County Building Department. A cheerful voice answered. How can I help you? I need to report potential code violations at a property that's undergone recent renovation, I said. I have concerns about unpermitted work and safety issues that need immediate inspection. The building inspector arrived on Monday morning with a clipboard, a camera, and the kind of thorough attention to detail that makes contractors break out in cold sweats. I met him at the front door, dressed in my professional attire and carrying a folder thick with documentation. Ms. Harper, I'm Inspector Rodriguez. You called about code violations? That's right. I'm a structural engineer, and I've been overseeing this renovation project. I have serious concerns about several aspects of the work that was completed. Rodriguez was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 30s, with the kind of systematic approach that told me he took his job seriously. What specific violations are we looking at? I opened my folder and pulled out the first set of photographs. The bathroom addition in the master suite was completed without proper permits. The electrical work in the kitchen doesn't match the approved plans, and I have documentation showing that load-bearing modifications were made without engineering approval. His eyebrows rose as he flipped through the photos. These are very detailed. How long have you been documenting these issues? Since they started occurring? I tried to address them with the homeowners, but my concerns were dismissed. I handed him a second folder. Here's my correspondence with the contractor, including my recommendations for proper permits and inspections that were ignored. Rodriguez was quiet for a long moment, studying the documents. Ms. Harper, are you related to the homeowners? They're my parents. I see. His expression remained professionally neutral, but I caught a flicker of understanding. That must make this difficult. What's difficult is watching safety protocols get ignored because people want to save money and time. What's difficult is having my professional recommendations dismissed because it's a family project. We spent the next 2 hours going through the house room by room. Rodriguez documented everything: the unpermitted bathroom with its questionable plumbing connections, the kitchen electrical work that didn't match city code, the structural modifications that should have required engineering approval. Each violation was photographed, measured, and noted on his official forms. This is extensive, he said finally, closing his clipboard. I'm going to have to issue a stop work order until these issues are addressed. What does that mean for the homeowners? They'll need to pull proper permits for all the unpermitted work, hire licensed professionals to bring everything up to code, and pass inspections before the house can be considered legally habitable. He paused. Given the scope of the violations, we're looking at significant time and expense. How significant? Hard to say without detailed estimates, but between permit fees, code compliance work, and potential fines, probably $30 to $50, maybe more if we find additional problems during the inspection process. I nodded calmly, though inside I felt like I was falling through space. When will they be notified? I'll file my report this afternoon. They should receive official notice within 48 hours. After Rodriguez left, I sat in my car outside the house for 20 minutes, staring at the red stop work order now posted prominently on the front door. My phone had been buzzing constantly, texts and missed calls from Mom, Dad, and Emma, but I wasn't ready to face the fallout yet. Instead, I drove to my office and spent the rest of the day reviewing structural calculations and trying to pretend my personal life wasn't imploding. But by 5 o'clock, I couldn't avoid it anymore. Emma was waiting in my parking garage, leaning against her car with arms crossed and fury radiating from every line of her body. We need to talk, she said the moment she saw me. I don't think we do. Sarah, what you did today was unforgivable. Do you have any idea what you've done to this family? I stopped walking and turned to face her. I reported legitimate safety violations. I did what any responsible engineer would do. You sabotaged your own family out of spite. I protected future homeowners from shoddy construction practices. Emma's perfectly made-up face was flushed with anger. Don't give me that professional responsibility bullshit. You did this because you're jealous that I'm getting something you're not. You're right, I said quietly. I am jealous. I'm jealous that you get everything handed to you while I work for everything I have. I'm jealous that Mom and Dad care more about your happiness than my financial security. I'm jealous that you get to be fragile and artistic while I have to be strong and practical. So you decided to destroy my fresh start. I decided to stop enabling a pattern that's been destroying me for 32 years. Emma's anger cracked, revealing something vulnerable underneath. Sarah, I need this house. I have nothing left. Marcus took everything, and I'm starting over from zero. And I needed my family to be honest with me. I needed to not spend my life savings on a house that was never intended to benefit me. It was supposed to be a family investment. No, I cut her off. It was supposed to be Emma's rescue fund, paid for by Sarah's hard work. Again. The phone call started that evening and didn't stop for 3 days. Mom called crying about the stress and the shame of having a condemned house in the neighborhood. Dad called trying to negotiate, asking what it would take to make this go away. Emma called screaming about lawyers and lawsuits and how I'd destroyed her one chance at stability. I let them all go to voicemail. On Thursday, my doorbell rang at 7 in the morning. I opened it to find Mom standing on my doorstep, looking older and more fragile than I'd ever seen her. Can I come in? she asked quietly. I stepped aside and led her to my living room. My small, neat, affordable living room that reflected a single income and careful financial planning. The estimates came back, she said without preamble. $47,000 to fix everything and get the permits in order. I poured myself coffee and didn't offer her any. That's unfortunate. Sarah, we don't have $47,000. We used our savings for Emma's legal fees, and the reverse mortgage barely covers our monthly expenses. What about Emma? She was planning to buy the house. Mom's laugh was bitter. With what money? Her divorce settlement is tied up in court, and she can't get a mortgage without steady income. Sounds like you have a problem. We have a problem. This is our family, Sarah. I looked at this woman who'd raised me, who'd taught me to share my toys and help with chores and always put family first, who'd also taught me that my needs came second to Emma's wants, that my success was something to be leveraged for Emma's benefit, that my love could be measured in dollars and sacrifices. No, I said finally, you have a problem. I have a life to rebuild. If we can't fix the house, we'll lose it entirely. Your father and I will be homeless. The emotional manipulation was so familiar, it felt like slipping on an old coat. But for the first time in my life, I recognized it for what it was and refused to put it on. You won't be homeless, Mom. You'll sell the house as is to someone who wants a renovation project. You'll probably lose money, but you'll have enough left to find an apartment or a smaller place. And Emma? Emma is 32 years old with a college degree. She'll figure it out. Mom stared at me like I'd grown a second head. I don't understand how you became so cold. I became realistic. There's a difference. This isn't you, Sarah. You're the one who takes care of everyone. Maybe that was the problem. She left without another word, and I spent the rest of the morning at my kitchen table with my laptop, researching apartments and condos in nicer neighborhoods. The money I'd spent on my parents' house was gone, but my salary was good and my credit was excellent. I could rebuild my savings. I could start over. My phone rang just after lunch. Unknown number. Sarah? This is attorney Patricia Chen. I represent your parents in a legal matter. I almost laughed. What kind of legal matter? They're considering a civil suit regarding the property damage caused by your complaint to the building department. They'd like to explore settlement options before moving forward with litigation. Let me save everyone some time and money, I said. I reported legitimate code violations discovered during a renovation project. I have documentation of every safety concern and every attempt to address them through proper channels. If your clients want to sue me for doing my job as a licensed engineer, they're welcome to try. Perhaps we could arrange a meeting. No meetings, no settlements, no negotiations. If you want to sue me for reporting safety violations, go ahead. I'll see you in court. I hung up and immediately called my own attorney, a sharp woman named Lisa, who'd handled my condo purchase. After explaining the situation, she was quiet for a long moment. They don't have a case, she said finally. You documented everything, you followed proper procedures, and you have a professional obligation to report safety violations. If anything, you could countersue for harassment. I don't want to countersue. I just want them to leave me alone. Consider sending a cease and desist letter. Make it clear that any further contact should go through me. That evening, I sat on my small balcony with a glass of wine and watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. For the first time in months, I felt something I'd almost forgotten. Peace. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Emma. Mom's in the hospital. Stress-induced chest pains. I hope you're happy. I stared at the message for a long time, waiting for the familiar guilt to wash over me. When it didn't come, I deleted the text and blocked the number. 6 months later, I was standing in the kitchen of my new condo, a bright corner unit with huge windows and space for the home office I'd always wanted. The mortgage payment was manageable, the neighborhood was safe, and best of all, every square foot belonged to me alone. I'd heard through mutual friends that my parents had sold the house to a contractor who specialized in renovation flips. They'd lost about $30,000 in the deal, but had enough left to move into a senior living community. Emma had taken a job at an art gallery in the city and was renting a studio apartment near downtown. None of them had contacted me since the cease and desist letter. I was arranging flowers in a vase, fresh peonies from the farmer's market, when my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw a woman about my age with kind eyes and an uncertain smile. Sarah Harper? I'm Jennifer Walsh. I think we need to talk. I opened the door cautiously. About what? About your grandmother's estate. I'm the executor, and there's something you need to know. Grandmother Rose had died 2 years earlier, and I'd assumed her modest estate had been divided between my parents and their siblings. But Jennifer led me to my living room and opened a briefcase filled with legal documents. Your grandmother set up a trust in your name, she said. It was activated when you demonstrated what she called financial independence from family manipulation. I stared at her. What does that mean? She was very specific about the conditions. The trust would only pay out when you stopped enabling destructive family patterns and started prioritizing your own well-being. Jennifer handed me a sealed envelope with my name written in Grandmother Rose's careful handwriting. Inside was a letter that made my eyes fill with tears. My dearest Sarah, it read, if you're receiving this, it means you finally learned to value yourself as much as you value others. I watched for years as your parents treated you like a bank account instead of a daughter. I watched Emma take and take while you gave and gave. The money in this trust, $185 plus accumulated interest, is not a reward for cutting ties with family. It's a foundation for building the life you deserve. You are worth so much more than they ever let you believe. Use this gift to create something beautiful for yourself. Love always, Grandma Rose. I looked up at Jennifer through my tears. She knew? She knew everything, and she was very proud of you for finally standing up for yourself. That evening, I called my best friend Rachel and told her about the inheritance. What are you going to do with it? She asked. I looked around my condo, my space, my sanctuary, my fresh start, and smiled. I'm going to invest it in the one person who's never let me down. Me. The next morning, I called my financial advisor and started planning for a future that belonged entirely to me. No family obligations, no guilt-induced sacrifices, no more being the responsible twin who fixed everyone else's problems. For the first time in my life, I was free to be selfish, and it felt absolutely perfect.